The headlines tonight: coping with grief. A Norfolk charity gets a visit from the Justice Secretary as they look at the link between bereavement and offending. Critical Care, the volunteer Norfolk lifesavers on a mission to find new medics. And coming up on Business Extra, we hear from the Chief Executive of NWES, which has just become the biggest enterprise agency in the country.
Good evening and welcome to Mustard, where tonight you join me at Smiles House, the headquarters of Norfolk's child bereavement charity Nelson's Journey. Today, Liz Truss, the Justice Secretary, has been having a look round. Usually she spends her days looking at prisons and discussing hardened criminals. But today it's something a little bit different, finding out how a loss of a loved one can lead to youth offending and what can be done to prevent it.
At just 15, Jeremiah knows more than most about bereavement. He's lost his best friend as well as several others, and he used to bottle up his feelings, only letting them out with bursts of anger. Norfolk charity Nelson's Journey helped him through, and now he volunteers helping others with support, which he says is essential to prevent grief becoming something more serious.
I think I'd be a lot more angry. I think I still would bottle it up a lot, and I'd probably be in trouble at school a lot more than I already am. I could see how a build-up of emotion could lead to outbursts of stuff. I could see how accidents could be caused by that, and how that could lead to youth offenders.
And it's that risk that was the focus of a visit by Justice Secretary and South West Norfolk MP Liz Truss today. She toured the charity's base at Smiles House in Little Plumstead and met the youth panel to hear about their projects, like their smartphone app, which has been downloaded 1,000 times in a year, and their new bereavement boxes.
Well, I do think it's very important how we support people in the justice system, and obviously environments like this can very much help where we've got vulnerable children in difficult situations. So certainly there are things we can learn. But I'm also interested from the point of view of being a local MP and making sure that children get the support in the most difficult time of their lives.
Nelson's Journey offers support, counselling and the chance for young people to meet others who've had the same experience. In the last year, the charity's had almost 800 referrals, 22% more than the year before. Chief Executive Simon Wright says some studies have shown 1 in 6 offenders have suffered a bereavement.
Untreated grief can lead to many of those behaviours developing and mental conditions emerging, which can then lead on to more offending behaviours. Our belief is that if you can provide an early intervention to children in those at-risk categories, then you can help them feel more positively about their place in the world, and by doing so, ensure that many of those most damaging behaviours do not emerge.
Simon says there are no plans at the moment to expand Nelson's Journey outside of Norfolk, but hopes visits from people like Liz Truss will raise its profile and encourage other groups around the country to spread the same positive message. Lauren Hewitt, Mustard TV, Little Plumstead.
Some other headlines now, and investigations are underway after a historic thatched cottage near Wymondham was gutted by fire. More than 90 firefighters were called to the street in Ashwellthorpe last night. 2 residents managed to escape unharmed, but the chimney fire spread to the roof, which went up in flames. Fire crews spent hours stripping the thatch from the roof, and neighbours have come forward to offer their support to the owners. Meanwhile, firefighters have also today had to free an elderly man after a crash which left his car flipped onto its side. It happened in Gordon Avenue in Thorpe St Andrew, and residents rushed to his aid before fire crews and paramedics arrived. The pensioner was eventually released from the car and his condition is not thought to be life-threatening. The other car is thought to have been stationary at the time of the crash. Next tonight, the volunteer paramedics appealing for more help. NARS, the Norfolk Accident Rescue Service, started up almost 50 years ago. The team works alongside the ambulance service to help those involved in crashes on the roads and other medical emergencies. But they're a small group and they want to get more well-trained doctors and medics to sign up. Mark Summers has been out on the road to see them in action.
Just send starters at the moment, over.
All received.
Thank you.
It's lunchtime in Norwich and Norfolk Accident Rescue Service, or NARS, have had an emergency call. With sirens blaring, the medics head off to help paramedics, vital support to a stretched ambulance service. On this occasion, there was nothing the team could do to help a man who'd been found dead in his home. But for some incidents, their experience can make the difference. All the more remarkable as they're just a small team of volunteers.
We need to get fresh blood in, and so if we've got any doctors out there that work in anaesthetics or A&E that fancy giving something back to the community, then just get in touch. Paramedics, we get plenty of paramedics ringing up all the time. We take cohorts through. The last cohort was 2 years ago, and they're going for an intense programme at the moment. They're doing really well.
NARS started almost 50 years ago, and when they're working, their doctors and paramedics deal with road traffic accidents and cardiac arrests, as well as attending training exercises like this one at the UEA. Along with their vehicle, Medic 22, they work from their own cars and cover an area from Wisbech to Great Yarmouth and from Cromer down to Bury St Edmunds. In 2015, they dealt with 273 calls from the main East of England Ambulance Service Critical Care Desk. They don't get any money from the NHS and rely on fundraising activities to keep going. Today, student paramedic Tom Kidney has joined them for some experience of the front line.
The normal ambulance career isn't as glamorous as you think it is on Holby City or anything. It tends to be very specific and regular sort of things, but the actual trauma and critical care side of it we don't really go to a lot. So it's nice to know that I can call critical care specialist to come and give me a hand. You know every time you're going to something that it's going to be a very sick patient. So I've seen more in 3 days than I would in 2 years of genuinely really, really poorly patients.
All our clinicians volunteer in their own time. On their days off, they'll phone in, they'll say they're available, and they'll come out and do a shift, which is great. For people to provide, that level of care for free in this day and age is fantastic. The type of incidents we go to are so specialist. You just need that extra level of care and support that we can provide the ambulance service with those patient groups.
Normally, Chris would be in the skies as he's a critical care paramedic for the air ambulance. But by simply being available on the road, he and the rest of the NARS team are there to take the pressure off our ambulances, giving their time to help save lives across our county. Mark Summers, Mustard TV, Norwich.
Now, community groups in Norfolk are celebrating grants of more than £400,000 in lottery cash. The biggest lottery fund windfall is heading for Norwich's King's Community Church, which is going to get £175,000 for a project to try and tackle the effects of poverty in Mile Cross. The group behind Norwich's Grapes Hill Community Garden has been awarded £10,000 to expand its activities and help people facing social isolation. And the city's Magdalen Street celebration will also get £10,000 to go towards cookery sessions, outdoor history walks and a food fair. OK, time for the latest sport. Here with your quickfire headlines, it's Phil Arms and Jake Watson.
Well, thank you, Rob. And there must be an enormous queue in the treatment room down at Coney at the moment, Jake. Absolute spate of injuries for Norwich City at the moment. Alex Neil must be scratching his head as to where Lady Luck has really deserted him. I mean, a dismal autumn and Christmas period. Picked up, now got 5-6 matches without defeat. And now he's hit with a spate of injuries. It's unbelievable, really.
Yeah, it's slightly unfortunate, isn't it? Just as we start to hit some good form, Nelson Oliveira is out for the next 4 to 6 weeks with it's a foot problem, isn't it? Yusuf Malumbu's come back from the African Cup of Nations with a thigh problem. So fingers crossed, it's not going to affect us too much. But Alec Neil said he is without 5 or 6 first teamers for the game this weekend.
You touched on the fact that Oliveira's got a foot injury. Ivo Pinto, his Portuguese compatriot, of course, has a foot injury. And Paul Louis Thompson, the young lad who's just making a breakthrough, out for the rest of the season with an Achilles tendon. He's almost down to the bare bones down there at Carrow Road. And Alex Neil's, well, I suppose it saves one situation. The squad picks itself. It's those who can stand up and run around. They get the situation and they get the position. One bit of good news, though, is the fact that Tom Lawrence, the prolific scorer that's on loan down at Ipswich Town, of course, has just picked up his 10th booking of the season.
Yeah, so Tom Lawrence picked up that booking at the weekend, which means he's going to be suspended for 2 games. That's what happens when you get 10 bookings, which means he is out of the East Anglian derby. And for anyone who's been following Championship football has seen that he has been Ipswich's best player by a country mile. So a big relief breath by Norwich City fans.
But of course the under-23s had a match last night, and there was a bit of good news there as well, because they managed to eke out a 1-0 win. 82nd minute strike from Ibu Adams, the Everton goalkeeper. In fact, actually it was a tale of 2 goalkeepers last night, really, because Paul Jones, the Norwich keeper, was in fact well, man of the match, kept the Everton guys at bay for the whole of the match, but with Connor Hunt, the Toffees keeper, made a mistake just in the 82nd minute. It fell to Ibu Adams, 12 yards out. He scored and the Canaries managed to hang on for 1 minute.
Yeah, and it's worth mentioning that was also Dimitri Halaiko's last game in charge of the under-23s before he heads off to an unnamed Premier League club. We say that we do believe it's Leicester City.
Well, of course, there was, in other news, Jake, we've got an entry of 44 players, which is a tribute, really, to the amount of hard work that's gone into the development of table tennis in the local area. So we had the Norfolk Schools Table Tennis Championships held down at the Catton Grove Primary School. 4 age groups, under 11, under 13, under 16 and under 19. And it was the under 16s that really sort of caught the headlines. Young Jonas Lee from Gresham School beat Louis Moyes from Framlingham Earl to edge a thrilling under-16s boys final. Nice and quickly, we've got the motorsport action, of course, gets underway at Snetterton very early February. It's a stage rally, the Motorsport News MSVR Circuit Rally Championship, a full entry of 90 cars this weekend, and action gets underway at 9 o'clock on Sunday morning. That's your sports news, and back to you, Rob.
Thanks, guys. And finally tonight, how do you fancy throwing yourself off a Welsh mountain on Europe's longest zip wire? Well, if you're mad enough to be even remotely tempted by that offer, here's your chance. It's 1 mile long and the start looks a bit like this, with the daredevil jumpers travelling at speeds of up to 100 miles an hour. The leap of faith is all to raise money for Norfolk's sight loss charity, the NNAB. Their fundraising manager, Canaries legend Jeremy Goss, has made a bit of a habit of thrill-seeking. In 2013, he led a team of bungee jumpers off the Vazazka Dam in Switzerland, and now he's urging people to sign up and raise thousands on this year's Zipwire Challenge in May. Right, time for the forecast now. Here's the latest from WeatherQuest.
Staying dry through the evening, but we'll find the cloud gradually thickening up as we go through the night. And as we go through past midnight, we'll find a little bit of patchy rain spreading in from the west, but some places will miss the rain altogether and stay completely dry. There'll be a light west or southwesterly wind and a minimum temperature around 5 or 6 degrees Celsius. For Friday then, looks like any early patchy rain in places will clear through the first part of the morning. We'll find a fair bit of cloud following in behind, but 1 or 2 bright intervals developing through the afternoon. A little bit of sunshine in places, but generally a bit more in the way of cloud around throughout the day. There'll be a light west or northwesterly wind, and staying fairly mild with temperatures around 11 degrees Celsius, a few degrees above the average for the time of year. Looking ahead then towards the weekend, we have variable amounts of cloud and sunny spells. The temperatures are always on the mild side. As we go through into the start of next week, we'll find the fine and dry conditions continuing with temperatures up to 13 degrees Celsius by Monday. There is a chance as we head towards Wednesday, though, of 1 or 2 showers spreading from the west, along with a strengthening breeze, but temperatures still fairly mild.
And remember, if you want to watch any of our reports again, just subscribe to our YouTube channel. Right, time for a quick break, but I'll soon be back with Business Extra. Tonight we're joined in the studio by the Chief Executive of NWES, which after 2 big acquisitions in 4 months has become the biggest enterprise agency in the country. Reaction to that and their latest plans for supporting small business is all on the way, so do stay with us.